Everybody remembers the promise. Abraham gets remembered, Sarah gets remembered, Isaac gets remembered, the miracle baby gets remembered, the family line gets remembered, the sermon practically writes itself. A long wait, a shocking birth, a divine promise finally moving forward. Clean, inspiring, very easy to put on a thumbnail. But right in the middle of that beautiful story is a woman most people treat like a background character. Her name is Hagar. And Hagar does not enter the story as a villain. She enters as a solution. That already says a lot. She is not the one receiving the promise. She is not the one making the family decisions. She is not sitting at the table saying, "Great news, I have solved the covenant." No. Hagar is pulled into a problem she did not create. Abraham and Sarah have been waiting. The promise has not arrived yet. Time is passing. Hope is getting tired. And when people get tired of waiting, they sometimes try to help God move faster, which, historically, always creates a peaceful afternoon. Sarah cannot have a child yet, so Hagar becomes the shortcut. Not the partner, not the voice in the room, not the person anyone seems deeply worried about, the shortcut. And that is where the story starts to feel less clean, because Hagar is welcomed while she is useful. She is included while her body helps solve someone else's anxiety. She is brought close while her presence seems convenient. Then the shortcut starts breathing, speaking, existing, and suddenly everyone looks uncomfortable. The solution now has a face, and that makes the room nervous. It is almost like using a powerless woman to fix a fragile family problem might create another fragile family problem. Shocking development. The modern version is not hard to imagine. A company creates chaos from the top, ignores every warning sign, holds 10 serious meetings about values, and then fires the person with the least power so leadership can smile in the final report. Very professional, very ancient, very current. Hagar did not create the promise. She did not delay it. She did not design the plan. She did not control the house. But somehow, she would end up carrying the weight of decisions made above her. And that is the detail people often miss. The desert did not begin in the desert. Her rejection began before she was sent away. It began inside the house, the moment her life became someone else's backup plan. The door only made public what the family had already decided in private. From a distance, the promise looks beautiful. Up close, there is a woman being used, watched, judged, and slowly pushed toward the exit. Not because she started the problem, because she reminded everyone the problem existed. And nobody needed to say it out loud yet. The house already understood where this was going, even before the desert appeared outside. And the most uncomfortable part, she paid for a decision she did not make. And that decision did not suddenly appear one morning with a loaf of bread and a water skin. The desert was not the beginning. The desert was the consequence. Before Hagar ever walked away from Abraham's house, the house was already full of cracks. There was the promise, still not fulfilled. There was the waiting getting heavier every year. There was Sarah, carrying disappointment nobody could politely decorate forever. There was Abraham, caught between faith, pressure, and a family situation getting less peaceful by the minute. And then there was Hagar, the woman placed in the center of everybody else's tension. She did not choose the plan. She did not design the arrangement. She did not wake up one day and say, "You know what this home needs? A more complicated inheritance situation." No, she was put there. And once she was put there, everyone expected the story to stay calm, which is adorable. Because apparently, forcing a complicated solution into a fragile family never creates problems. Very shocking. The whole house was operating like a pot with the lid pressed down. Nothing looked fully broken from the outside, but inside, everything was boiling. Promise delayed, anxiety rising, human shortcuts entering the chat, power imbalance everywhere, and Hagar had the least power in the room. That detail matters. She was not Sarah. She was not Abraham. She was not the person with authority, history, wealth, or the promise attached to her name. She was the woman everyone could use, watch, judge, and later remove. A very convenient position for everyone except Hagar. The problem was not just that she became pregnant. The problem was that her pregnancy made the hidden tension visible. Now the shortcut had consequences. Now the backup plan had a child. Now the private decision had a public face. And when a family does not want to face what it has done, it usually finds someone easier to blame. Hagar was perfect for that role, not because she was guilty, because she was vulnerable. That is how power often works. The people who create the pressure rarely carry the heaviest consequence. The person with the least protection often does. Ancient story, modern office, same awkward meeting. It is like making someone plan B, then acting offended when plan B starts existing in real life. How dare the solution become a person? So before there is sand, thirst, fear, or a child crying in the wilderness, there is already abandonment inside the home. The desert only exposes what the house has been practicing. Hagar is still physically inside. But emotionally, she is already being pushed toward the edge. And then Isaac is born. The promised child arrives. The miracle everybody waited for finally enters the room. And the moment the promise appears, Hagar becomes the reminder nobody wants to keep looking at. Because celebrating Isaac was easier if everyone stopped looking at Hagar. And that is when the house became dangerous. And then Isaac is born. The promised child arrives. The miracle everyone had been waiting for enters the house, with the kind of dramatic timing that makes people say, "See, we had nothing to worry about," which is a very brave sentence after years of worrying professionally. Isaac's birth should have ended the tension, but it did not, because sometimes the thing everyone prayed for does not erase the mess everyone made while waiting for it. Now Sarah has her son. Abraham has the child tied to the promise. The family has the future it wanted. And Hagar becomes the reminder sitting too close to the celebration. Her son Ishmael is still there. He is not an idea. He is not a footnote. He is not an uncomfortable detail people can sweep under the carpet while pretending the carpet is very spiritual. He is a child, a living result of the shortcut. And that is where everything changes. Before Isaac, Hagar could be explained as the solution to a delay. After Isaac, she becomes the evidence of a decision nobody wants to keep discussing. The solution has now become a threat. Not because Hagar suddenly gained power, not because Ishmael is running the household with a clipboard, but because their presence complicates the clean version of the story. And clean stories do not like witnesses. The house wants to celebrate Isaac without staring at the chapter that came before him. Very understandable, very human, very inconvenient for the people who still exist. So the tension that had been boiling quietly now comes to the surface. Sarah sees Ishmael. The mood changes. The text gives the moment quickly, but the emotional math behind it is loud. Inheritance, status, memory, jealousy, fear. Everything the house tried not to say finally finds a target, and the target is Hagar and her son. That is usually how unresolved drama works. The real issue is too complicated, so everyone points at the person easiest to remove. Family systems, ancient addition. Sarah demands that Hagar and Ishmael be cast out, not moved to another room, not given a careful plan, cast out. Abraham hesitates. And yes, hesitation sounds nice. It looks thoughtful. It gives the scene a little pause, maybe even a sad soundtrack. But hesitation is not protection. If someone is being pushed toward the door, standing nearby with a worried face, is not exactly a rescue mission. In the end, the decision moves forward. The woman once pulled into the house is now being pushed out of it. The child who made the shortcut visible is being sent away with her. And this is where the story stops whispering. The promise remains inside. The problem is sent outside. Very neat, very clean, very dangerous. Because when a family tries to protect its future by discarding its consequences, the desert is no longer a location. It becomes a verdict. And now Hagar is about to hear that verdict in the harshest place possible, alone. The verdict becomes visible early in the morning. No long meeting, no family conference, no carefully written transition plan, just bread, water, a child, and the door. Hagar receives enough to leave, not enough to feel safe. That difference matters. Because the story does not show Abraham sending her away with protection, servants, a map, a camel, and a motivational speech about new beginnings. No, she gets food, She gets water. She gets the wilderness. Very generous if the goal is survival for approximately 15 minutes, and then she walks out. The woman who had been brought into the house because she was useful is now removed from it because she has become inconvenient. Inside stays the promise. Outside goes the consequence. Very clean, very official, very terrifying. And Hagar is not walking out alone. Ishmael is with her. The child who once made the shortcut visible is now carrying the cost of adults trying not to look at their own decisions. That is what makes the scene heavier. This is not just a woman leaving a house. This is a mother walking into a wilderness with her son and limited water, because the people with power have decided the future looks simpler without them. The desert does not care about family politics. The sun does not pause for emotional processing. The sand does not say, "Take your time, this is clearly a difficult transition." The wilderness is brutally practical. The water runs out, the strength runs out, the plan runs out, and suddenly all the human decisions that looked manageable inside the house become deadly outside it. Hagar reaches the limit. There is no strategy left, no negotiation, no person nearby to appeal to. No one in the house watching the consequences unfold, so she places Ishmael under a bush. Then she moves away, not because she does not love him, because she cannot bear to watch him die. The text is quick, but the moment is devastating. Hagar, the woman used as a solution, now sits in the desert with no solution left. She lifts her voice and weeps, and then the story turns. Because the people who used her could not save her, but the God who saw her could. God hears the boy. God calls to Hagar. Not to Abraham first, not to Sarah, not to the people who made the decision and stayed comfortable behind the door. To Hagar, the woman outside, the discarded one, the one nobody wanted in the final picture. And God asks what is wrong, as if heaven is making one thing very clear. The house may have stopped looking, but heaven did not. Then her eyes are opened. There is water. There is life. There is a future where everyone else saw an ending. The desert was supposed to be her ending. Instead, it became the place where God answered. Hagar had been cast out. She had walked away with bread, water, a child, and no real guarantee that tomorrow would exist. Human protection was gone. Family protection was gone. The house had made its decision. And from the outside, the situation looked finished, very finished. The kind of finished where people inside can close the door, take a deep breath, and tell themselves the difficult part is over. Of course, the difficult part is usually not over. It has just been transferred to someone with fewer resources. Hagar is now in the wilderness with Ishmael, facing the cost of a story other people wanted to simplify. She was useful, then she was uncomfortable, then she was removed. And now she is supposed to disappear quietly because that is what discarded people are often expected to do. No dramatic speech, no official apology, no committee investigating how things got this bad. Just silence, sand, thirst, and a mother sitting far enough away from her son because the scene is too painful to watch up close. This is where the title becomes true. Hagar was cast out, and she was left to die. But the story refuses to let that be the final sentence. Because Hagar may be outside the house, but she is not outside God's attention. That is the reversal. The people with power stopped looking. God did not. The family moved on. Heaven did not. And the woman everyone treated like a side character suddenly becomes the center of the scene. God hears. God calls. God opens her eyes. And the place that looked empty is not empty anymore. There is water, which is a practical miracle. Sometimes the most spiritual thing in the world is not a glowing sky, a thunderous speech, or a soundtrack swelling in the background. Sometimes it is water when your child is thirsty. Simple, necessary, perfectly timed. Hagar survives. Ishmael survives. The story continues, and that matters because her survival is not a decorative detail. It is the point. The narrative does not pretend the abandonment was beautiful. It does not say being discarded was pleasant. It does not turn the desert into a cute, inspirational workshop. The desert was dangerous. The rejection was real. The pain was not imaginary. But Hagar's value was not decided by the people who sent her away. That is the quiet punch of the story. Being removed from the room does not mean being removed from the story. Being pushed outside does not mean being erased. Sometimes the people cut out of the main celebration are the ones who reveal what the story was really about. Not power, not image, not keeping the family portrait neat, but seeing the person everybody else found easier not to notice. So yes, the promise continued inside the house. But grace answered in the wilderness too. Hagar was cast out by people. But she was not forgotten by God. Which biblical story should be simplified next? Leah, Tamar, or Ruth?